Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode 353 of the Mailright Real Estate Marketing Podcast. Today, Jonathan and I are going to be talking about the unpronounceable, the undefinable Zurple. If you don't remember what the name of this system is, well, besides the fact it starts with a Z, nobody blames you. At one point, and John literally wasn't even in the business when this happened, but at one point Zurple was a monster in the real estate marketing sandbox, but they have really lost relevancy for a whole bunch of different reasons, not the least of which is a scathing review that I actually wrote on them a number of years back. But having said that, we're still going to talk about them again today. Before we do so, I want everybody to acknowledge that whatever you get from John today, he has, one, handled a whole bunch of customer stuff today, and two, he did an entire web development conference this morning. So he's actually on the back-to-back stuff today. So without no further ado, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, I don't know what to say, Rob. Let's be a little bit kind with him, but I'm the co-founder of this podcast with Robert. I'm the founder of Mailright. We build beautiful websites for real estate agents and brokers on WordPress, and we got a suite of marketing tools and a CRM to help you get digital leads. Back over to you, Rob.
So, Zurple, so for those of you don't know, has the appearances of being like every other system that's out there, which is you get like a beautiful screen and you have a property and then there's a search bar and you start to search. And that's where Zurple does actually become quite different. Now, Zurple was the first, before even Ylopo, they were the first behavioral marketing system that existed inside real estate. And I think the development team behind them was Constellation, which is just a way of saying the Constellation also built Z57. So then they bought and then started to work on Zurple. And what they do is they're really good at identifying where in the customer journey would it be a good idea to try to communicate to the client. As an example, when you were searching on Zurple, you would get this message sent to you through the system on the website that would say, hey, Bob, we noticed that you're looking at 12345, Pineapple Street. Would you like to see this house, or are you just shopping around right now? And then it would be like a yes or no question. So Zurple's magic was getting you to start to respond within the system. They would proactively interact with you as the person using the platform. And then, of course, if you answered enough yes questions, you'd end up in an appointment with the person that was speaking to you. Now, the genius of Zurple used to be that you could keep using the Zurple platform without most of the really super annoying registration triggers. So you could come back over and over again and have these very gentle messages, which you could dismiss. And then eventually, somewhere down the line, you could register when you were ready to see a house. So it was like behavioral marketing. That was pretty cool. So that's great. But unfortunately, Zurple is, boy, oh boy. Did they just, John, you can bleep this out, boy, did they shit the bed in terms of their sales strategies, their contract strategies. The reason that I wrote a scathing review is in all the time that I did this, I went and I signed a $12,000 contract with Zurple on behalf of a client of mine.
Oh.
And I'm the one that told them to use Zurple. I said, hey, we need to use Zurple. So we signed the agreement. I signed the agreement on behalf of my client. I signed it for them. Because at the time I was acting like a consultant, John. I was basically a remote CMO for a brokerage in Denver. And so I signed the agreement obviously with the broker's approval. And when they sent me the agreement, I had clearly said 6 months, we'll do 6 months. They agreed to 6 months. And then I, being an asshole, didn't actually read the entire contract. I didn't read all the fine print. What had happened is a salesperson had changed the contract language so that it was a 12-month agreement, and he had done it on purpose. And I didn't catch it, and I signed the thing. So when I did catch it, they said, "Tough titty, sir. You didn't catch it. That's your bad, not our bad." So then I talked to the client, of course, and their opinion is exactly what it should have been. Well, you were the officer who signed this agreement on our behalf, so you're responsible. So what they did is they canceled the agreement because they were unhappy with the platform. It wasn't working very well. Zurple does not work very fast. You should expect a year or two before you start seeing decent leads generated by this platform. But my client was unhappy, and so they couldn't wait that long. So of course, the entire ball of wax fell on me. Not only did I have to complete the contract, but in addition to that, I had to reimburse my client for having recommended them in the first place, and having it. It was a shit. It was an absolute fail, John. I couldn't get a hold of anybody in customer service. I got a bad experience. I even pulled the card, which you and I have probably really reluctantly pulled. Like I even told Zurple at the time, listen, I'm an influencer inside the real estate space. Please, for the love of God, make an exception to your rules. To which they literally said that, basically go fuck yourself. They didn't use that exact language, but they said absolutely not. Doesn't matter who you are. They literally did say that. Doesn't matter who you are. This is the rule. Sorry, tough titties. Too bad you don't like it, right? So what I did is after that, I actually committed. And John, you've known me a while, so how upset do I have to be to then take that and put down? I basically recorded the conversation, the result, the contract, everything from start to finish. I just outlined the customer journey that I had with him.
Well, that isn't the YouTube that I watched. The YouTube I watched maybe was the one where you seem pretty reasonably calm, and you just did. I'm going to put it into chat. Obviously, people are listening to this podcast, but I'm going to put it into private chat. I put it into private chat. That's the one I was watching. And yeah, I'm really sorry to hear of your experience. To say it sounds a bit rough is a slight understatement. But hopefully I was watching the right video.
Well, here's the thing. I don't look to destroy anybody, and they do have game-changing technology inside the platform. They are halfway responsible for the thing that is Wailopo. They're the people that came up with the idea of a completely automated customer journey with completely automated leads that the realtor never has to do anything for. And you don't. Zurple does work that way. You don't do squat. And the platform does eventually build a relationship with the client. And then eventually, with enough time, you start to get really qualified leads. It is actually pretty cool technology to it. That's what my video says. But I've not. So there's a little bit more of a journey, because anybody who researches Zurple is going to find me, John. I'm all over the first page of Google for everything related to Zurple. And here's the thing. A couple years later, the head of their sales department did reach out to me. And the head of the sales department then he basically was trying to get a little bit of this review tempered down. And unfortunately for him, I did some research on the head of the sales department, and it turned out that he had a lot of online complaints about him. And so I just posted one single complaint and then put it up on my review. So it actually had the exact opposite intent that they wanted it to have, which is where I posted a message that he had.
So before, let's just go over what I gathered by watching your video, right? It looked like
it's John's way of saying, ladies and gentlemen, he doesn't want to hear it anymore. Which is fine. Hit us.
I think Robert's made his feelings very clear. He normally I say that, he makes his feelings towards me very clear sometimes. Sometimes I deserve it. But what I was getting from your video review, which I watched, was that this way of engaging when they get to the website seemed fine. But the bit that I concentrated on was how they got traffic to the website. And you were saying buyer leads, they were using Google adverts, seller leads, they were using Facebook adverts. The actual messages, the email, I don't know if they combine it with text messages now. I think when I was watching your video review, they send off a series of emails. You said that you can't really customize them yourself. You have to ring them and put in a support request to have any of those emails changed. That was painful. I think you were saying extremely painful. There was a lot of configuration that you had to do to get it to a stage where you were reasonably happy with it. Then you showed some of the landing page. They offer automative. You put in your postcode, in your zip code, and it produces a automatic report, and then it sends it off. I think you said in your video your particular client, because of their processes, then that didn't suit them, but there wasn't any scope of changing that. And then you showed some of the landing pages that they utilize for their Facebook adverts, which is basically seem to just be one option where they offer this report, basically. And I got the impression that it had echoes of bold leads. And I'm in a difficult position because of MailRight. So I'm not going to talk about MailRight, but it had a lot of echoes of bold leads, but not a very good bold leads alternative, basically. What's your feelings about what I've just outlined? Am I factually correct about some of the things I got from your video?
Well, I mean, you're factually correct in the things that you remember getting from my video. And at the time that I did the video, I was smart in that I did all my Zurple reviews right after I finished using Zurple. And this is one of those platforms where I actually used it with a real dollar budget. Like I think we ran 10 grand through them. So which is a decent sized number. It's a decent test. We ended up getting about 30, 40, 50 leads, of which not a single one converted, but I was sending them to a client who historically wasn't all that communicative to me or all that great about reporting into me about how or what they did with the leads. So saying that, to be fair to everybody involved, I don't know what happened. With most leads generated off these systems, John, you got to have a fairly decent follow-up in place. These systems like Ylopo, the average conversion time that I'm hearing about on the platform right now is like 12, 13 months. That's like how much. So you're following up with all of these clients ad nauseum before you finally get a lead that is going to convert.
But the basic things I've just outlined, they are the basic facts, are they not, to some extent, of how the system works?
Yes. So let's go to our break 30 seconds early, because there's a place that this system excels. It really, really is good, and it probably still quite good if you used it this way. And I'm going to explain it when we come back from the break. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, we're having a surprising conversation because John definitely didn't know he was going to walk into a cow patty of a conversation when he opened the door. He's like, "Hey, you want to talk about Zurple?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll talk about Zurple." But every time I got to talk to him, in my heart, in the way that I feel like I've got to share my experience. We'll be right back. Oh, do us a favor. John and I would really appreciate it if you, and he's like doing all sorts of crazy ass, like you guys got to watch the video. For those of you listening, watch the video. He does funny shit when I'm trying to like talk. Okay. So anyway, we'll be right back and we're looking forward to coming back. Do us a favor. Click the like on the social buttons and like, you know, make sure that you share this show with your friends, especially if they've been asking you about Zurple. Thanks. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the MailRight podcast. We are super excited to once again be talking to you about a system that actually I didn't have a great experience with. And at the beginning of the break, it's called Zurple. You can just look them up. It's Zurple.com. That's Zurple.com. A lot of you haven't heard of them because they've been losing ground and losing steam for a while now. But they still have one area that they really do excel in. They excelled in 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm sure they excel in it now because they were hard to touch. And that is as follows. If you have 500 to 3,000 email addresses that you just have been sitting on, old leads, and you're not doing shit with them, nothing, not doing anything, not emailing, not nothing, you can just turn them over to Zurple. And what Zurple will start doing is doing the very traditional, very standard, here's some listings available inside your zip code, so on and so forth. Well, when somebody clicks those like a looky-loo, the behavioral marketing will definitely nurture these leads in a much more impactful and amazing way than, let's say, just emailing them or just sending them into an IDX website. There will be prompts and pops up. They'll feel like they're having a conversation with you while they're searching through the platform, which means that those handful of your leads that decide to start looking at properties again or looking at property prices using Zurple will actually feel engaged with you. Zurple is a great re-engagement machine. It's probably the only thing that it's really good at. So if you are sitting on some leads, and really when you start talking about a re-engagement machine and try to start talking about cost, there is no like cost number that you can put on it. If we can get you 10, 20, 30 transactions out of 3,000 old leads you're doing nothing with, there's a lot of money to spend there to recapture that business. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Yeah, but you could just, you should have somebody, a VA or somebody in your organization that could ring these people up anyway, really.
Correct. Well, there's another thing that Zurple does, which I'd actually forgotten about. I just reread my review. So what they also do, which is interesting, is as people are searching through their platform, they do whatever they're going to do. When you, the user, log into Zurple, Zurple has sorted the behavior of the people using the platform into preferred, browsing, expensive, favorites, and return. They essentially will rank the behavior of the person doing the searching. And should you be inclined to make some phone calls, they will be sorted for you based on what.
Talking to actual prospects. God, we can't have that, can we? Shock horror. Actually, an agent will actually have to call up and have a discussion with possible prospects. Never.
Right. So there's some really cool features, but Zurple, and the other thing that Zurple still wins a prize on, because I still haven't figured out how they do this, and John, that hasn't happened often in my entire career. They figured out how to add a gateway that you had to register in, so that there was a view that would come down in Google Earth, so that you could come down and do a street level view of a listing, right? Like you fly in. Right as you hit the listing, it blurred. And then they're like, register to see the listing.
All right.
Using Google, I don't know how they did it. It should have been impossible. So they figured out a way to add a code of some kind so that they could actually blur the view.
I did notice that. I did notice when you were doing your video review, the actual reporting side was impressive. It looked like they had done a nice job. And it's not something that the MailRight system we've concentrated on. We've just done this CRM. It's a nice CRM. It's a basic one. It's not follow-up boss or nothing, but it's not pitched at that. And I don't Do they have their own CRM built into it, or it's just the reporting side? I don't think they do. I think they just provide the reports about.
They just provide the
Right.
reports.
It's
They don't
quite
really
nice. Yeah.
they don't have a CRM.
It's just the other bits that you reviewed just didn't seem up to bold lead standards. Really, it just seemed to be like, kind of bold leads, but a bit anemic. That's the right word. A bit anemic compared to what bold leads does, really, or real geeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Am I on the right track?
You are. And a number of years ago, guys, for those people listening, what you get is you get a website for 2 agents and one, and then they have like some fees, and all these fees are probably higher now. All of them. The actual lowest amount that you could spend on the platform was $250, but it was really limited. And then they had a package called Standard, Power, and Domination, which was $250, $500, $1,000, and $2,000. And they would basically break those numbers out into buyers leads and seller leads. So let's just say that you wanted both buyers and seller leads. You would have to spend $1,000 on Standard to get both those systems engaged.
And to be fair, if you're going to be using on the buy, you're going to be utilizing Google paid advertising. That's what you start off with, isn't it? That doesn't give you too much, does it?
No. And then they had something that was complete and utter baloney on their platform, which really distressed me and still distresses me because it's simply not true.
Do I distress you, Rob?
Sometimes. But then again, my cats distress me sometimes, John. So that's not saying.
He's comparing me to a cat.
Not far off the truth. All right. Except they probably groom themselves more. No, I'm just kidding. All right, stop. You got me off. I'm lucky that my podcast partner, who's just cracking up, is English, because they're used to throwing some pretty hard punches when they decide to joke with each other. So I'm incredibly lucky that John happens to be an English bloke.
The more abuse I get from Rob, the more I like
it. So the platform has something called an exclusivity fee, or at least they used to, and it was $200 a month. And they claimed that if you paid them the $200 a month, they would give you exclusivity into zip codes or markets. And I know this to be completely false. This is not something that was true. It was just basically $200 extra that you'd spend for nothing, for a nice idea that they wouldn't honor. And so it makes them a system that's a little bit on the scammy side, which is too bad. The system fixed rate, $349, which is what you could be investing in for those emails that I told you about, was a really good deal. And I think you have to spend like an extra few $100s to get this up to a certain number of contacts loaded into the system. So I remember the last time I did the math, like to get a few thousand contacts into the system and just email out to existing users, no advertising, would end up being about $600 a month, which may sound like a lot of money to some of you. But let me tell you, for a decent email campaign that's going to reactivate old, non-active prospects that you have without you doing anything, no calls, no nothing, that's actually a steal. That's a steal. If the pricing was even $1,000 a month, that would still be a steal. For those of you who are running big teams and brokerages, as you well know, you should definitely have that line item in there. You should have $2,000 being sent to your 10,000 contacts that may have been thrown into your cold bucket or not getting worked actively bucket, something like that. But anyway, it's a good system for that specific activity. So what is the system comparable to? Because John's been alluding. There isn't anything that's really always ever been quite like Zurple. But Zurple, which was bought by Perseus, was made some of the remotely similar things. Like John is comparing bold leads. There really isn't actually comparison between the two. Sorry, John. Bold leads is a funnel system. It runs you directly into a very robust CRM. Zurple has no CRM, so that makes it wildly different right out of the gate. But Zurple is kind of close to...
I kind of respectfully disagree with you a little bit there.
Okay. Well, there's no automated version of following up with leads. So
What
Okay,
in Zurple?
in Zurple. So
All
you
right.
can't like
It
like
does. Yeah.
you do get a list of leads, but you get this behavioral list, and that's it. You're not really
All right.
having the ability to work the leads out of
No,
Zurple.
I suppose I'm just going by the video about these landing pages and they fill it in and it goes in. I presumed that they were going to do some follow through, but obviously you just informed me that they don't. So
The platform does the follow through. That's the thing about it. And that's also very similar to some ideas, some great ideas that Ylopos took. They took from Zurple, including the idea behind taking behavioral marketing and calling it AI. Everybody's been taking behavioral marketing and calling it AI. There's nobody inside the real estate space that I know of currently that actually has autonomous learning as part of a marketing platform. Autonomous learning is coming. I know of a number of early stage investment companies working on things, but saying that it exists right now today, it does not. Does not exist for Ilopo, does not exist for Zurple.
You still got to get the people to the website to do whatever you plan to do with them, don't you?
Correct. And in that, you are accurate. In that, the strategy to get people to the site was almost identical to Bold Leads. In that, the method of driving traffic was almost 100% correct. So the strategy, the traffic strategy, the direct marketing strategy was almost 100% the same. Same thing with Real Geeks, though. Real Geeks, Bold Leads, Zurple.
So I think what you're saying to me is, but when they got to the website, their actual technology and their technology at this point is actually a bit more sophisticated than what you would get with Bold Leads from Real Geeks. But the problem is, which maybe is why we had a bit of a cross communication or different impressions, is the bits before you get them to the website and the actual look of the website. Mm-hmm. Didn't seem to match Real Geeks or Bold Leads and quite a few of the other players out there.
It's correct. Because once again, except for the technology development of the chops, like once Zurple doesn't care. I get the impression that they're letting this whole platform languish. They're just letting it run out of steam, run out of investment while they milk it for the clients that have it and use it, John. They've waited 3 years for the platform to kick in, and it's kicked in. They kind of are super loyal. So there's a certain level of profit. Now, I don't see the market going away because some of those clients are under the impression that they have exclusive agreements with Zurple. They built up for years using the platform. They now collect like it's working now, which means that they've got years worth of effort generated into the platform. I don't see them going anywhere. I think Zurple is going to continue to generate, even in a bad marketplace, a down real estate market. I think that they're going to end up having, let's call it probably 600-700 clients still spending whatever they're spending, probably making $2 to $3 million a year, that they can churn out that money. They can just consistently. And the way that Perseus was running Zurple was their manager, their CEO, was actually the CEO of two separate companies. So they kind of said, "Oh, you're the CEO of Zurple or Z57. Hey, Mark, take over Zurple," and he did. And that was it. They just assigned the same guy to manage this other marketing division. They've literally paid no attention to it. I think or at least they weren't. I think the rats are running the ship. Is what I think is what I think is happening.
I just love it, and the listeners must love it because we're getting more listeners. We're still growing in our listeners. I think they just like our little patter. We have a laugh as we make these reviews, don't we?
Yeah. And having said all that, like I said to everybody listening, I just want to be super, 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 super clear. Still, nobody has done anything like Zurple. It's still unique, even now. Like Ylopos is the closest, and they don't do the same thing. They put a lot of hooks into their text messaging system, into their structurally install, which is what they use to send out text messages. So they absolutely have the ability to like it feels like you're having a dialogue with somebody.
We can't. I haven't got a lot of knowledge artificial. I've got a friend that's got a very powerful WordPress plugin called Bertha. It's a competitor to Jarvis. It helps you write content basically, and I use it on a number of clients' websites, and I use it myself, and it really works. It's very, very good, Bertha. But utilizing artificial, what is classified as for behavioral monitoring and adaptation, I just presume it's not very easy. I just presume that this is a difficult nut to crack, because otherwise they'll all be at it, wouldn't they?
Yeah. For those of you who are listening, I'm reading through my Zurple review. It's still relevant. It's 5 years old, but you can get I did a detailed, deep dive right in the midst of having the experience.
I can tell though, Rob, that the pain is still there, Rob.
Well,
the suffering and I brought back bad memories to you.
It is always disappointing, John, because I take this really weird view. Everybody that is in the real estate marketing industry, they're in my industry, and I'm in theirs. Results like this are what give all of us, you, me, everybody, a bad name, man. Bad name. When you get on the phone with a real estate agent and they are just out of their mind with sorrow and pain over a real estate marketing system, there's nothing more disappointing than going through all this. And then the worst stories. Now, this is the worst story that actually happened to me, John. You're looking at it. This is the worst thing in all my years, like acting on behalf of my brokerage clients, either my big name clients or stuff like that. I got hired as a remote CMO quite a few times. And when I did, this is the worst experience that we ever had. This one right here, lied to, deceived, support documents. When I went to get, they're like, go look at our support documents. Okay, I go and open up the support document and they're showing the wrong system. They didn't upgrade their fucking support documents. So they sent you to a place where the information was not available. What are
we gonna do? I can't cry. I'm just laughing.
But the technology was cool. It is cool. Like what they did, like the development on it, it was so clever. They were the first, John. They were the innovators, and Ylopo copied them.
I wonder how they're doing it, because I just don't know enough. Do you think they are using some kind of machine learning, or is it just trickery? Is it
Which one? Which one are we talking about? Or do I think that Zurple is, or
Zurple? Do you Zurple? Do you think they've got some kind of machine learning behind it, or do you think it's smoke and mirrors? But it's very good smoke and mirrors.
I think it's very good smoke and mirrors. I don't think it's machine learning. Well, maybe it is machine learning. Machine learning and autonomous intelligence are two entirely different things. So I think that Ylopo probably has some machine learning, and I think that Zurple probably has some machine learning, because machine learning is merely a matter of collecting analytics and then letting them get close to being able to make a decision. And then usually you've got an engineer somewhere in the middle saying, do I really want to go ahead with this decision or not? But the machine learning is presenting you the data that says, oh, you might want to do this. I think that Zurple and Ylopo probably have something like that. But that's by the way, for everybody listening, that is pure conjecture. And if any of the guys over at Ylopo tune into the show, which one of them does on the regular, hey, I'm just guessing, dude. If you want to,
please come on the show.
If you want to tell me, let me know.
Yeah, please come on the show. And if you got any, obviously, Zurple, if you got anything you want to communicate, please send the letter to Robert. You can't see what gesture he's made to the listeners. It's not very nice. That didn't go down very well, actually. You wanted to say something much worse than that to me. But it was funny in a way, wasn't it, Robert?
It was very funny. Except that I've already received numerous calls and letters from them. But that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. All right.
I know. I've been there. I've been on my other podcast. I do another podcast, listeners, which is a little bit on the edge. And I have numerous businesses and individuals that are not happy with me, and they not regularly, but like once or twice a year, I get letters sent to me. And in the end, it's water on the duck's back. You get the first one, you get very heated. 6 or 7 later, it's just water on the duck's back, really.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, John and I have some internal discussions. We need to have a little like podcast lovers quarrel here and go down a rabbit hole. In the meantime, for those of you who are feeling pokey along with John and I have a question. How funny would it be if John and I got dressed up in revolutionary outfits and did a bit on the Revolutionary War? I would like to see that in the comment section wherever we've got these videos posted.
Where the hell's this coming from?
Going back to an original conversation. He nixed it, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't going to happen, most likely. But I would like to see a poll because I think it would be super funny. So I want to see if anybody actually volunteers a comment after listening to this podcast anywhere. So where podcasts are dropped, Amazon, Apple, YouTube. There's so many different places that you could decide to look John up. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you the easiest, and I'm going to plug John's social media so maybe he doesn't cut this part out of the show. Go to mail-right.com and then look under the podcasts, and you can find the show there, or you can go to YouTube/mail-right, and you can find the show. Sure, some of you have noticed that I've started to upload shows onto my own YouTube channel. I still have not quite figured out how I'm categorizing them. The shows are just there. So we'll figure that all out. All right. John, you look depressed.
Yeah.
Do you want to say goodbye?
No, I'll just, goodbye, folks. We'll see you next week. Send us out, Robert.
Okay. Oh, that was it. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We love your patronage, and we'll see you on the next week's show. You can look up John at mail-right.com, and you can look me up at InboundREM.com.